Hello YouTube, WWE Fan 2 back here with our video. And as you can tell by the title, this is going to be a different video. There's going to be pictures all throughout the screen on this video. And this is going to be the AEW Dynamite's 1-year anniversary special. Obviously, AEW Dynamite has been going on since October 2nd, 2019. And it is currently October 2nd, 2020. The video might come out October 2nd, 2020. Or it might come out tomorrow, October 3rd, 2020. So either day it comes. I've made this video on the 1-year anniversary. It might come out tomorrow. It might come out later today. But yeah. So, up first, I'm going to be doing the review for AEW Dynamite from 2019. The first episode. So basically, the first AEW Dynamite. So yeah, obviously AEW Dynamite, I think they started January or December 2018 or January 2019. And obviously they had some pay-per-views without weekly television shows, but AEW Dynamite has been going on for 1 year, so I'm doing AEW Dynamite. I'm not doing AEW as a whole, just AEW Dynamite. So this week's AEW Dynamite for October 2nd, 2019 was live from Washington, D.C. And yeah, and hashtag #1 on Twitter or something was AEW Dynamite, hashtag AEW Dynamite basically. So yeah, the show began with a brief show open featuring some of the big wrestlers in the company. There was a pyro display on the stage, which is similar to the stage setup they used at the 2 pay-per-views this year. Obviously, Double or Nothing, Fighter Fest, and Fight for the Fallen, I think it was, and All Out. But basically, Double or Nothing and All Out were the main pay-per-views. So Jim Ross welcomed us to the show. Jim Ross, good old JR, he welcomed us to AEW Dynamite, the first episode. The crowd was super loud in Washington, D.C. You can tell that it was going to be something special. The crowd were red hot. Obviously, this was before the pandemic and all that that's happening now. This was October 2019. So, yeah, the crowd was red hot. And, yeah, and also in front row, it was Kevin Smith and Jason Meows. I'm sorry if I said the name wrong. I probably did. But those are people from Jay and Silent Bob. They were at ringside and front row. I don't watch that show, so I don't know who they are, but they were just at the front row of AEW Dynamite. And the AEW announce team, it is featuring Jim Ross, which is JR, Tony Schiavone, and Excalibur, he's obviously in a mask. They welcomed us to the show from the announcer's table. Tony Schiavone, he noted that this was, AEW Dynamite was the last wrestling show on TNT since 2001. Obviously the last wrestling show, which was WCW Nitro. The last one was March 26, I think, 2001, where the WWE, or back then known as WWF, bought WCW on that one episode of Nitro. So yeah, the last wrestling show on WCW, or the last wrestling show on TNT, sorry about that, was WCW Nitro back in 2001. And now AEW Dynamite are bringing it back in 2019. So they were all wearing AEW jackets. They went over the matches that are coming up. And yeah, basically, the first match on the card was Cody versus Sammy Guevara. Basically, there was a video package to get us ready for Cody versus Sammy Guevara, with Cody talking about how the last thing he wants is to get embarrassed, while Sammy said it was the biggest match of his life. Cody is scheduled to challenge Chris Jericho for the AEW title match at Full Gear 2019, which is Jericho versus Cody. For Full Gear 2019. But if Sammy wins, Cody said that Sammy would take his place in the match versus Jericho at Full Gear. This is obviously before Sammy Guevara joined Jericho. So yeah, basically Cody made his entrance along his wife Brandy Rose. They got a huge ovation from the crowd. There was some fire and pyro that went off for the entrance of the American Nightmare Cody. The ovation continued to get louder as Cody posed in the ring, with some fans cheering and chanting his name. And as Sammy Guevara then made his entrance with his panda headgear, and his nickname is The Best Ever, which is a conceited name for a guy in his mid-20s. The crowd didn't cheer for Sammy because I think it was a heel. So yeah, so basically the first match, Cody with his wife Brandy Rhodes versus Sammy Guevara. So in this match, there's a 20-minute time limit. They announced those in AEW. Obviously there's time limits in matches. So yeah, if the match goes into 20 minutes, then the match is a draw. So yeah. So Sammy Guevara is just referred as Sammy here. So yeah. They did some mat wrestling early on, followed by a taunt from Sammy. The green shirt guy that sits in the front row of a lot of WWE events was there here in front row, so the green shirt guy obviously put up a picture on screen. He was here front row for AEW Dynamite, the first episode. So Cody was in control with a headlock, and Cody had a TNT belt on. So Cody had a little TNT belt on. Obviously, he wore his belts. So yeah, and he had a TNT belt on. Sammy then hit a slap to the face of Cody. Cody got mad, hit an uppercut. Cody then hit a power slam too. Cody slapped on a figure 4 leg lock, and Sammy was able to get to the bottom rope and break the hold. Cody with a standing delayed front superplex for 2, or suplex, whatever. With Sammy down, Cody did some push-ups and flexing. Sammy came back with a spin kick to the face, but Cody got back into it with a springboard and then a cutter for a 2 count. Sammy with a jumping kick to the face of Cody, and then Sammy went to the top rope, leading into a cutter of his own for a 2 count. When Sammy went to the apron, Cody kicked him to the mat. Brandy went over to Sammy. She talked trash to him, and Cody went for the suicide dive. Sammy pulled Brandy in front of him, so Cody accidentally knocked down Brandy. Cody helped Brandy back up, and doctors or someone checked on her. That allowed Sammy to shove Cody into the steel post. Back into the ring, Sammy hit a standing moonsault for the 2 count. Cody set up Sammy against the rope. Cody set up Sammy against the ropes. Brandy hit Sammy with a shield to the face, and Cody hit a springboard disaster kick for a 2 count. They were at 10-minute mark. They were at the 10-minute mark by this time. And Cody sat up Sammy on the top rope and hit a reverse superplex off the top for a 2 count. Great move that drew a big reaction from the crowd. Cody got back elbow and knocked down Sammy. Or basically, Cody got a back elbow to knock down Sammy down. And Cody went up to the top, and Sammy jumped off the top with a Spanish fly slam for a 2 count. So basically, Sammy Guevara went onto the top rope, hit a Spanish fly for the 2 count. That was a great start press, but Cody got his knees up, and he hit an inside cradle for the pinfall after 12 minutes. So we were 12 minutes into the match. So Sammy Guevara was hitting a shooting star press. Cody got his knees up, hit him with an inside cradle. 1, 2, 3. Cody Rhodes wins by pinfall. Match was very good. Basically, I'm just reading this off website, so sorry if I'm messing up so much. But yeah, after the match, Cody was supposed to be interviewed by Tony Schiavone, who Cody hugged. Sammy Guevara went to Cody and shook his hand. That led to AEW World Champion Chris Jericho coming out to attack Cody. Jericho beat up Cody with punches and a clothesline. Jericho held up the AEW belt, or title. Jericho hit a code breaker on Cody, and they went to break after 23 minutes. Commercial break was up next. Basically, the show returned with Jericho still in control of Cody as they battled outside the ring. Jericho pulled out 2 chairs that he opened up on the floor. Jericho gave Cody a powerbomb on 2 chairs. A ringside attendant pushed Jericho to basically tell him to get out of there. Jericho shoved Schiavone out of the way. Jericho did a promo on the stage saying that he is Chris Jericho and he is Le Champion of AEW. They showed replays of Jericho's attack on Cody Rhodes from before the break. During the break, Jericho hit Cody with a chair to the back. So yeah, Cody versus Sammy Guevara. Cody ended up winning, and then Jericho attacked Cody from behind. So let's get into the next match up next. The next match is the match between MJF versus Brandon Cutler. So basically, Brandon Cutler, he entered for a match. Excalibur let us know he was a school-age friend of the Young Bucks. Got into the business with them. Then he stood wrestling and got back into it. This was his first AEW match. This was Brandon Cutler's first AEW match, and he was facing MJF Maxwell Jacob Friedman. MJF made his entrance to let us know He is the fastest rising star in the history of professional wrestling. Maxwell Jacob Friedman. MJF insulted Cutler after being a guy that should be being the guardrail because he's a complete loser. MJF said that Cutler will find out the Dungeons and Dragons is not real, but MJF is better and you know it. So, second match on AEW Dynamite's first show was MJF versus Brandon Cutler. So, just like this. So, match started off when MJF tripped up Cutler, who came back with a hard slap to the face, and Cutler hit a sunset flip with a pin into 2. Cutler picked up MJF, who did an eye rake, and MJF drove the left arm against the top rope. Schiavone said he wanted Cutler to shut this little, his mouth. When speaking of MJF sent Cutler shoulder first into the ring post. MJF worked on the shoulder a bit. Cutler set MJF out of the ring, and Cutler hit a suicide dive followed by punches. Cutler went to the top rope, then slipped off and flavored his left knee. So his left knee was hurt. Then the referee tried to keep Cutler back. So MJF hit Cutler with a forearm, and MJF slapped on the Salt of Earth armbar for the submission win after 3 minutes. So the winner by submission is MJF. So he hit the Salt of the Earth armbar, and Brandon Cutler tapped out. So Brandon Cutler ends up losing his first AEW match, and MJF ends up winning on the first episode of AEW Dynamite. So basically a win-win situation. So they went to break after MJF had his hand raised as the winner. So then it was commercial break. And then they showed interviewer Chris Van Vliet at ringside with Kevin Smith and Jason Meows of Jay and Silent Bob, which comes out October 1st, which was the day before AEW Dynamite. So yeah, which comes out October 1st and 5th or something. And Chris Jericho is in it, so yeah, that's probably where they were in the front row. Smith says Jericho plays a bad guy in the movie. Smith says that it is amazing, and there was an interruption. It was Jack Evans and Angelico. Evans talked trash to Meows and Smith. So Meows said they were even good enough to win a match. That led up to Private Party Tag Team to show up at ringside, and then they left. There was a plug for the AEW World Tag Team Championship Tournament starting next week. The SCU trio of Christopher Daniels, Frankie Kazarian, and Scorpio Sky did a video in Washington. Sky did a bit of an Obama impression and said, "This is the worst time I've ever been," which is their catchphrases. And they let us know they were SCU. There was an interview by Tony Schiavone where he talked to Sky, Daniels, and Kazarian on the stage. Sky said, "Dynamite, like Jimmy Walker." Google it, kids, Sky said after is very confident that any 2 of 3 of them will walk out of the tournament with gold around his waist. And Sky said he'll sit this one out to let experience of Kazarian and Daniels to be in the tournament. The Lucha Brothers, Pentagon, and Phoenix showed up to the interruption. They got in a big ovation. Phoenix said that they are the best tag team in the business. Pentagon said "Cero miedo," meaning no fear. And SCU said SCU at them. There was a water spit after that, and it led to a brawl with referees breaking it up. Then it was commercial break. Again, commercial break. So yeah, when they returned from commercial break, they showed the crowd in the arena for about 10 seconds. Then showed some music, and JR noted there were over 14,000 fans in the arena. I think JR at the beginning of the show said that they were 14,121 fans there. So yeah, I think that's how much JR said in the beginning of the show. 14,121 fans. So yeah, the trio of the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega was shown backstage getting ready. Chris Jericho had a chat with his partners Santana and Ortiz, with Jericho telling them it's the most important night in wrestling history, the first ever AEW Dynamite. Alright, so the next match is Pac versus Hangman Adam Page. So yeah, obviously, like I said, Hangman Adam Page lost to Chris Jericho in the inaugural AEW World Title match at All Out, which I forgot what date it took place in, or I think it took place August 31st. Yeah, August 31st, 2019. Hangman Adam Page lost to Chris Jericho for the AEW World Title. So basically, Chris Jericho was the first ever AEW World Champion. So yeah, and then Pac came out. So Pac, most fans knew him as Neville. Back in WWE, he was known as Neville. So yeah, he was up an opponent that's called the Bastard Pac officially. So yeah, Pac was called the Bastard Pac. So Pac got a big win over Kenny Omega at All Out. They went to break before the match began. So yet another commercial break. So yeah, the match began a few minutes before the midway point of the show. So yeah, Pac versus Hangman Adam Page. This match has a 20-minute time limit. They got into a slugfest as they exchanged punches. The fans were really into it. Pac came back with kicks to the ribs. Pac with a jumping kick, and then Page hit a clothesline, leading to the flip bump by Pac. Pac with a chop. So Pac left the ring, and Page went after him and whipped Pac against the barricade 2 times. Pac went back into the ring and then hit Page with a suicide dive, or Hangman on Page, you know what I mean. Not the WWE Page, but yeah, hit Hangman on Page, went back into the ring, and then hit a suicide dive that sent Pac into the barricade. Back in the ring, Hangman on Page with a follow-away slam, followed by a standing shooting star press for a 2 count. Pac sent Page to the apron and then choked his throat across the top rope. Pac stomped on his back of the neck of Page at ringside, and then Pac hit a springboard moonsault onto Page onto the floor. Pac makes it look so easy. Back into the ring. Pac hit a springboard 450 splash for a 2 count. It didn't look smooth, but it got the job done. Page went up top again. Then Page went to the turnbuckle, so Pac followed with a corner drop kick. Pac went back up to the top, and Page stopped him with a super kick. Page with a follow-away slam from the middle ropes. Page with a drop kick and flapjack into the cutter for a 2 count. Pac sent Page into the top turnbuckle and then whipped him into the steel post. They went to a split screen break, as JR said, but here in Canada it was a regular commercial break. So basically, commercial break. So basically it was a split screen commercial break in America, but in Canada it was just a random commercial break. So for the people in Canada it was a commercial break. For the people in other places it was just a split screen sort of kind of commercial. So yeah, commercial break sort of kind of. Pac was in control as he taunted Page. The fans booed Pac, and Page came back with punches followed by a spinebuster. Page wanted the Deadeye Slam. Pac avoided it, the springboard attack, and Page hit a powerbomb for the 2 count. Pac balled to the floor, so Page hit a moonsault onto Pac on the floor. That was impressive and drew a good pop. They almost went crashing into Earl Hebner, which was the referee. The referee was Earl Hebner. So yeah, they almost went crashing into Hebner. So Page hit a low blow. So yeah, Hebner asked about it. Page denied it. And Pac, not Page. Pac. So yeah, Pac denied it. And Pac went to the top. Pac jumped off the top with a Black Arrow splash, followed by the submission brutalizer. The brutalizer submission after about 13 minutes. So if I said Page for moves that Pac hit, I'm very sorry. They both start with P, and it's just very weird. So yeah, if I said Page for moves that Pac hit, I'm so sorry about that. But basically, he jumped off the top rope with a Black Arrow splash off the top rope, and he followed the Black Arrow with the brutalizer submission, which Pac tapped out, or Hangman and Page tapped out to the brutalizer after 13 minutes or something like that. So the winner by submission was Pac. So they showed replays of the key spots in the match. Pac was shown leaving as the winner. After that, there was a commercial for the Full Gear pay-per-view on Saturday, November 9th. Jericho versus Cody for the AEW World title, and Moxley versus Omega are the top 2 matches. So at Full Gear, which was I think around 7 days after this, about a week after this, so at the Full Gear pay-per-view on Saturday, November 9th, Chris Jericho was going up against Cody for the AEW World title. And also it was Moxley versus Omega in the unsanctioned match. And those 2 were the 2 top matches of AEW Full Gear 2019. So next it was Dr. Britt Baker made her entrance to join the announce team for the women's match. Obviously this was for the vacant AEW Women's Championship between Riho and Nyla Rose. So Dr. Britt Baker, she joined the announce team for to announce this match. So yeah, Baker talked about how it took 8 years to be a dentist. So Nyla Rose made her entrance first for the AEW Women's Championship match. Riho was up against that opponent in Nyla Rose. Nyla Rose is much bigger. And then, as usual, went to commercial break again. The introductions took place with Justin Roberts introducing Nyla Rose and Riho. The camera focused on Baker and the commentary as well. The AEW Women's title was held up by the referee. It's not that big of a title, yeah. The title is not too big. It looks very small. But, yeah. And basically, in this vacant AEW Women's Championship match, there was no time limit for this match. So these women can wrestle as long as they want to. So these women can wrestle as long as they want to. There's no 20-minute time limit. There's no 60-minute time limit. Nothing. No time limit for this match. So basically, Riho attacked with forearms as the announcers mentioned that she was 22 years old and started wrestling at 9 years of age. Riho with the head scissors takedown. Riho charged, but Rose knocked down her shoulders with a shoulder takedown. Rose hit a running splash. Riho with a double foot stomp to the back that had no effect. So Rose got back to her feet and put her leg on the back of Riho against the ropes. Rose slapped on an STF submission on Riho on the mat, which Riho getting to the bottom rope to break the hold. Rose grabbed the waist lock. Rose with a running back elbow, and Riho came back with a running knee strike. Riho with another knee strike that sent Rose out of the ring. Riho up top with a diving attack, but Rose caught her and hit a backbreaker on the floor. Good catch. Rose grabbed a steel chair, so the referee grabbed it from her. I think the referee was Aubrey Edwards. I could be mistaken, but I'm pretty sure the referee was Aubrey Edwards for this match. So yeah, the referee grabbed the steel chair from Nyla Rose's hands. So then Rose whipped Riho into the guardrail. Rose brought out 4 chairs from under the ring. Rose put Riho onto the 4 chairs on the floor. Riho went onto the turnbuckle and then hit a senton splash. But Riho moved out of the way, so Nyla Rose, she went back first into 4 steel chairs. So yeah, the referee could have counted both women out by now, but she wasn't counting at all. Riho with a double stomp off the apron onto the chest of Rose. Back into the ring, Riho went on top and hit a double stomp to the back for a 2 count. Riho slapped on a submission. Rose was fighting it, and they went back to commercial break. So after the commercial break, the match returned with Riho going for a move, but Rose's size prevented Riho from succeeding the move. Rose decked Riho with a punch. Riho with punches. Rose blocked that with a boot to the face, and Riho captured the leg into a pin attempt for a 2 count. That was a great near fall with fans thinking it was a 3. Rose hit a clothesline into a Death Valley driver for a 2 count. The crowd was coming alive for this match, with most of them standing up and applauding both women. They battled onto the top rope, with Riho hitting a Northern Light suplex off the top for a 2 count. Great spot. Riho went for a running knee. Rose avoided it, and Riho hit a jumping knee attack to the back, followed by double knees to the face. Riho covered for the pinfall, while Rose kicking out after a 3 count. The match went for 14 minutes, and basically the winner by pinfall and the new AEW Women's Champion was Riho. By the time, new AEW Women's Champion, because I think the current AEW Women's Champion is Hikaru Shida, or the current AEW Women's Champion is Hikaru Shida. But by the time, the first ever AEW Women's Champion was Riho. The match was very good. As you heard, the crowd was up almost the whole match. This is definitely one of the better AEW Women's matches. Obviously, the AEW Women's division is not too good, but this match definitely was good. So basically, after the match, Meiko Nakazawa went into the ring for an interview in Japanese, but Rose hit Nakazawa from behind with a forearm. Rose went for a powerbomb, nearly dropped him on his head, then picked him up again and hit a powerbomb. Rose went after Riho, but Kenny Omega ran out to ringside and saved Riho. The fans chanted Kenny for Omega, who is in charge of the AEW Women's division. Rose was taken to the back, which led to yet another commercial break. So there was a brief commercial for the Full Gear pay-per-view on November 9th once again. So and next it was up time for the main event. So the elite trio of Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks, which is Matt Jackson and Nick Jackson, to a big pop from the crowd. They're in the main event. The time limit was announced as the TV time remaining. Alright, so commercial break. Santana and Ortiz made their entrance from their AEW debut match. They were known as LAX in Impact Wrestling, but LAX is a name owned by Impact, so they're just using their names, Santana and Ortiz. Chris Jericho made his entrance to the song Judas by his band Fozzy, with Jericho as the lead singer. Jericho got a superstar reaction, and there was some pyro for his entrance, making him look like an even bigger star. So, by the way, Chris Jericho was the AEW World Champion by the time. Obviously now it's Jon Moxley, but by the time it was Chris Jericho as the AEW World Champion. So so now it's time for the main event. Kenny Omega, Nick Jackson, and Matt Jackson, which is the Young Bucks, versus Chris Jericho, Santana, and Ortiz. So basically, the match is, the time limit is TV time remaining, which there were 17 minutes left in the show. Omega was on fire, taking care of the heel side. Jericho wanted Wall of Jericho on Omega, but it was a double super kick on Jericho by the Young Bucks. Nick hit a dive over the top onto Santana and Ortiz on the floor. Omega teased an attack, but Jon Moxley showed up. Moxley went after Omega with punches. The referee did not call for the bell for a DQ. Moxley sent Omega out the ring, and they went brawling into the crowd. Omega tossed a trash can at Moxley, but Moxley came back with a knee attack. Moxley sent Omega into the barricade. Moxley got his hands on a mop and Omega got his hands on a mop and hit Moxley in the back, since Omega was known as the cleaner. Moxley sent Omega into a door. Moxley picked up Omega and gave him a DDT, which basically is the paradigm shift now. He gave him the paradigm shift through a glass coffee table. It was Moxley's back that took most of the bump, but maybe some of Omega's head hit the table. Hopefully it was sugar glass and not real glass. Still a wild spot you don't see very often. So yeah, paradigm shift to Kenny Omega onto a glass coffee table. And then they returned to the match, and there were about 8 minutes left when the show returned to the match. The Jericho, Santana, and Ortiz team were in control as Santana and Ortiz took turns hitting splashes on Matt. Jericho tagged in, lion saw attempt. Matt got onto the knee. Matt got the knees up, and Ortiz got the tag with a forearm to Matt's back. Matt stopped Ortiz with double boots into the face, followed by a cutter out of the corner. Santana tagged in. Matt hit 2 Northern Light suplex and double Northern Light suplex. That always generates a big pop, and it did here too. Nick tagged in to clean house, and the opponents including a bulldog clothesline combination. Nick hit a running kick on Nick hit a running kick on Jericho, double stomp on Ortiz, and Nick went up to the top with a twisting moonsault onto Santana onto the floor. Matt tagged in. Nick tried to attack, but Jericho attempted with a code breaker. So basically, Nick or Matt Jackson, I can't remember which Young Buck it was. They were going for the Meltzer driver, whatever it's called. I don't know what it's really called. Was it called the Meltzer driver? I don't know, but the move that they front flipped into like a power driver. So they're going for that. Jericho reversed it into a code breaker. So yeah, Cannonball attacked by Santana on a mat, and they whipped Matt into the Judas Effect back elbow by Jericho for the pinfall after 13 minutes. So this match was about 13 minutes, and the winners by pinfall is AEW World Champion by the time, Le Champion, Chris Jericho, Santana, and Ortiz. After the match, Jericho, Santana, and Ortiz went after the Young Bucks, but Cody ran out to save them with punches on Jericho. Sammy Guevara then came and went and kicked Cody with a low blow. But then Dustin Rhodes, which is Cody's brother, Dustin came in, he cleaned house, and he basically punched Jericho. He punched Santana and Ortiz, and he beat up everyone. And then out of nowhere, while Dustin was taunting, out of nowhere with a clothesline to the back of the head, was the undefeated MMA record for Jake Hager. Jake Hager came out, and the crowd, it was such a big pop from the crowd. So Jack Swagger, he was known as WWE, aka Jake Hager, now known in AEW, he ran into the ring and he slammed Dustin. The crowd, this was a big pop from the crowd for Hager's appearance. Since they obviously knew him as Jack Swagger in WWE. Jericho hyped up Hager's undefeated MMA record. Hager with a clothesline on Cody, a running attack on Matt Jackson with a corner splash on Cody. Hager shook hands with Santana, Ortiz, Jericho, and Guevara to show that Hager is a heel. The referee was there to give them time cues, because obviously there was at least 3 or 2 minutes left till the show ended. Hager picked up Dustin and gave him a gut-wrench suplex onto the podium table. It was not a regular table you see on wrestling shows. Hager and Santana held up Cody. Then Jericho hit Cody with a Judas Effect elbow to the head. Jericho laughed about it. The heel group of Jericho, Hager, Guevara, and Santana and Ortiz stood in the ring together as the show ended at 10 p.m. Eastern Time. The camera focused on Hager to end the show. So this was AEW Dynamite for October 2nd, 2019. The 3 stars of AEW Dynamite for this week was Chris Jericho, Cody, and Riho. At least that's what it says here. So yeah, so the week's AEW Dynamite got an average of at least for me it would get a 9, but on this that I'm reading got a 7 out of 10. But yeah, matches like MJF versus Brandon Cutler were okay. But then there was matches like Cody versus Sammy Guevara, which was excellent and awesome. So let me go back through the matches. It was Cody versus Sammy Guevara, which Cody ended up winning. MJF versus Brandon Cutler, which MJF ended up winning. Pac versus Hangman and Page, which Pac ended up winning. And the vacant AEW Women's Championship match, Riho versus Nyla Rose, which Riho ended up winning and becoming the vacant AEW Women's Champion. And the main event that I just went through between Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks versus Chris Jericho, Santana, and Ortiz, which Jericho, Santana, and Ortiz ended up winning. And obviously after the match, it was the debut of Jack Swagger, or now known as AEW, Jake Hager. The undefeated MMA record of Jake Hager has now shown up in AEW. But yeah, this was AEW October 2nd, 2019. This video literally took me like an hour to make because I messed up like 72,000 times. So I'm very sorry if this video was absolutely horrible, because I do know the video was horrible because I kept messing up reading, and I legit had to grab my Gramps phone to read all this stuff. But yeah, hopefully you enjoyed the video. Put down in the comments below what do you think was the rating for AEW's first AEW Dynamite. Like I said, I'll give it a solid 9 out of 10. Definitely better than WWE. So yeah, like I said in the beginning of the video, this was the first wrestling show on TNT since 2001, and obviously the last being WCW Monday Nitro back in 2001. So hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, subscribe. This video is probably going way too long, so please subscribe and I'll hopefully see you in the next one. Peace.